got any questions then before we wrap it up? You can tell my voice has pretty much had it now, hasn't it? It's I'm not used to talking this long because obviously I've had a lot of surgery done downstairs, as it were, and it's kind of going. So if anyone's got any questions, anyone wants to know anything, ask away.
What's happened to Galliano?
Do you know what? Rob stopped Galliano at their peak. They just got to the point they were a festival headline band, you know, getting 20 grand a gig, playing to 15,000 people. Absolutely fantastic. And Rob Gallagher said, I don't want to do it anymore. The rest of the band were devastated because, you know, A, they'd worked bloody hard for 5 years to get to that level, and B, it was a really good band, and you don't get to be in a really good band very often in your musical career. Rob said, that's it, I'm finished, I'm never going to look back. I saw him at a Christmas party 7 or 8 years ago. He's married to Valerie, who is Jamiroquai's backing singer. And I said, look, come on, I can get a Galliano gig. Why don't we just do one gig for fun, you know, just for old time's sake? He goes, never in a million years. Imagine my horror and disappointment when I discovered that they did a gig in December, I think, in London, without advertising it, without telling anybody. I didn't know about it until afterwards. I think it was a room smaller than this, and that they're never going to do it again. So, but stranger things have happened because Giles has just sat up talking loud again. So if he's done that, then maybe Rob can be persuaded, because Galliano, don't get me wrong, there were a lot of good bands around that time. Mother Earth, Brand New Heavies, Galliano, you know, Corduroy.
Barry K. Sharp, Barry K. Sharp, what does he do now?
He runs a clothing company and drives around Hackney in his Kubelwagen. Which is a German Second World War. Yeah, well, Barry had a single on Acid Jazz, and I managed him for a while, and he runs a clothing company called Red Eye, I think.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, these people are all still around. I just wish. Well, see, the thing is, young people don't really like that kind of music anymore. So you know, there's not really much of a demand for jazz, funk. What is literally acid jazz stuff? I mean, the mod stuff is a lot bigger because, you know, there's still always been an interest in mod. Even now, you've got the Stripes and Miles Kane and young people making that kind of music. But there's never really been a next generation. Post Jamiroquai, I never signed another soulful jazz funk artist like Jay, because I never thought I could do better than that. And once you've kind of done better, you know, there's the biggest artist in the world for a year. You know, I thought, well, you're never going to find another one of them. So I stopped and concentrated on my club. So no one ever signed another one. And if you haven't got constant coming through, you don't, you know, people who are into that scene are now between 40 and 45, you know? Yeah, do you know what?
So you can take credit for it still.
Well, I'm really, really pleased you said that, because that's the thing I'm most proud of. And I didn't really want to bring it up because most of you in Leeds probably didn't go to the Blue Note, but to understand what it actually achieved in its short life, it was only open for 7 years. It won the Club of the Decade in the Time Out Millennium Awards, you know, and it was, I'll never forget coming in at 2 o'clock in the morning, turning on the telly, putting on Sky News, and you had a debate about London cultural explosion with a bloke from New York. And the journalist from London was saying, but the thing about New York is, you're finished, you know, London's where it's at, we've got this club called the Blue Note. And I'm going, wow, they're talking about my club on the fucking Sky News to America. And the American goes, yeah, we've got a club called the Blue Note as well. And he went, yeah, but it's not like ours. And I just thought, come on, fucking yes. You know, and funnily enough, I had a plan for that club. It took 6 months to get going. No one was interested. No one wanted to go to Hoxton. No one even knew where Hoxton was. There was a gay club, one pub, a taxi office and a sandwich bar and a newsagent's, and that was it in the whole of that area, you know. Yeah. And pardon? Yeah, you can't. It's a disgusting place now. But nobody, because we're not there anymore, obviously. Nobody wanted to go, so I A&R'd that. I had an idea. I A&R'd that nightclub as I would have A&R'd a record label, and I didn't want to play house music, although every so often we'd have Andy Weatherall or somebody, David Morales or someone would do a house night. But I wanted it to be progressive, but also mixed with the music I loved and grew up with. So I thought every night we'd have a different night on rotation. And it really worked. And it's exactly true what he said. You couldn't even get into the square, and you couldn't get in most nights. I remember when David Bowie was turned away because he thought he'd be able to walk to the front of the queue and come in, and it's like, sorry mate, it's back in the queue. And it's been one in, one out for the last 45 minutes, so sorry. It's like, but and although when Damon Hill, having just won the World Formula One Championship, he did this, yeah, come in, Dave. Come in. See you later, Bowie. Anyway, I wish I hadn't done that now, obviously, because Bowie's, but it's too late. The funny things we do when we're young. But I'm really proud of that, and it changed London clubbing. It was the first successful non-house music club in London, and it pioneered the rotational system of nights. But more importantly, it was somewhere you could go in the week and dance till 5 in the morning every night of the week, and it was full up every night of the week, and Sunday afternoons. It was unbelievable. Sunday afternoons was the jazz thing, and then Sunday nights was Metalheads. You couldn't even, like 400 people got turned away every night. There was Talvin Singh did Mondays. That was, you couldn't get in then. There was Cold Cut did Thursdays once a month. Andy Weatherall did. Everyone who was cool, that old word from the 50s, did a night at that club. I don't know how we managed to pull it off, and I'm massively proud of it, and thank you very much for mentioning it.
I'd second that, but I mean, the interesting thing for me is you've said about sort of like almost musical differences, not differences, but yours and Giles' philosophy, and you know, even when you sign new bands, I guess there's been a sort of slightly retro feel to them. And yet that club, as you say, was very forward-facing, very progressive. So I'm just wondering, how have you sort of squared your philosophy of kind of wanting to move music forward by discovering bands and, you know, with a passion for sort of reviving and finding things? How have you sort of squared that?
That's a really good point, actually, and I think that's the main reason Giles left Acid Jazz, because he thought I was too retro. Galliano, in an interview in the early 90s, said that Acid Jazz was a mixture of mods and casuals. Mods from Eddie and casuals through Giles. And I think that I had a populist mentality. I wanted Jamiroquai to be the biggest artist in the world. I think Giles wanted more intelligent music, you know, less kind of emotive, less populist, more elitist, if you like, more cerebral than what I wanted. But the thing is, it's different times. When I set up Acid Jazz, no one had done that kind of music for 25 years. So it was new to everybody. By 93, when I opened the club, or was it 92, I can't remember, that was old and boring. But Cold Cut were taking elements of that and making it new. Talvin Singh was taking elements of that from an Indian perspective so there was always a theme, and the main theme was love of music. So I thought it was too easy to make house music and play house music, you know, as is proven today, where you press a button and go and make a cup of tea and it does a whole DJ set for you. And all of those nights had a common thread, and that thread was a love for making people dance to organic music, whether it's electronic or not. It was very exciting. Metalheads, there's a bit of retro going on with Metalheads. I was really into what used to be called intelligent drum and bass. You know, but after jungle, after hardcore split into jungle and hardcore. You know, everything was always really progressing, and we just happened to be at the right place at the right time with the Blue Note. And I had a great team of people, and we treated it like a record label. This is our next release. It's Cold Cut. You know, this is our next release. It's Norman J. It's Abashanti. You know, and it worked. No one's done it again. Fabric tried it, but eventually the lowest common denominator means that if you want to make a lot of money, you've got to play shit for people from the suburbs, and that's basically what happens now. And I'm kind of glad the Blue Note closed, but not that glad.
What an amazing life thus far.
Didn't you,
Thanks.
you had a fanzine, didn't you, a couple of years ago?
How do you know that? Oh, I said that.
You said it. Yeah, you said it.
Yeah, I did have a fanzine, and it did very well, thank you very much. It became quite big. I think I did 16 or 17.
How did that come about?
Again, with the mod scene, after 1979, the media didn't really write. After Quadrophenia came out, mod became a bit of a dirty word in mainstream media. So a lot of there were a lot of bands and a lot of kids coming through that scene right up until the 90s. but they didn't really have anywhere to read about us before the internet. So a lot of kids started making their own magazines and interviewing the bands that no one was writing about, publicising the gigs, and I just followed on with that tradition, and I did that, and then it was quite successful, and it ran for about four years, and
So you've got different people to contribute.
yeah, people used to send in articles from all over the world. That's how I met the people from Australia or the people from Belfast, and also people used to send their fanzines to me to review. So it became a bit of a kind of like a pre-internet society, if you like. It's weird, but that's how everyone communicated. You didn't know about gigs. It was completely underground. Bizarre now, because nothing's underground now, is it? Is it? I don't think so.
Kind of. There's bits, I think. Now.
Well, you just have to click, and then you find out what's going on. You can type in anything in the world into Google or a search engine.
Click on the ground.
Yeah, and then it will take you to Transport for London.
I think there's still bits underground, but I think it's quite
I think it's a time and a place, and I think evolution means that it will never be like that again. It's gone. And I mean, you go to clubs, people who enjoy themselves are not 17 and 18-year-olds. They're out getting twatted on cider by the bus stop. The people who enjoy themselves are in their early 40s.
Yeah, it's the old schools.
And we'll die as, we will be we're the first generation not to become our parents. And, I dread to think what the next generation is going to be like. Having X Factor reunion nights.
And not talking about
I've seen Andrew Weatherall here, there's been other folk here, and they talk, they've had wide and various interesting lives, and it gets to a certain point, and it just stops there. There's nothing ever about the future almost, it's almost like just nostalgia to a certain point. And I know it's not your place to say, but this one thing always comes up, and it's about X Factor is always mentioned, but I think we're almost belittling the youth of today by saying that's all they're about.
Then I think, there's always been a mass culture, and mass culture is always crap. There's always an alternative to the mass culture. And the thing is, I'm probably too old to know what that alternative is and to know where it is. And if I did know about it, I'd be ripping it off. You know what I mean? So.
No, but you touched on it earlier on about, retro and in the 90s and in the future. We don't have that almost. We just have the retro, the nostalgia. But I don't think there's any middlemen these days to actually try and help. Not help, it sounds not a youth group, but you know what I mean? To try to knock stuff on as well.
Well, there are two scenes where that happens. And I mean, my scene, the kind of music I like, which is soul music, kids aren't particularly interested in that. I mean, there are a few kids now in Bristol and London that like Northern Soul and stuff, but people generally don't like it. Where you have kids coming through is metal. Now, I don't understand that at all, but when I go into Harlow Town and I walk around, I see plenty of kids into metal. I'm sure they've got a great, interesting and varied kind of experience. I don't know what it is. And funnily enough, I don't want to know what it is because I don't like the music. But my son understands that music and he probably likes it, but I wouldn't want to. So consequently, I can't empathise with their experience because I don't want to. Whereas if there was a young soul scene out there where people were getting into kind of black music, even progressive, forward-thinking R&B or whatever you want to call it, I'd want to go. But the fact is, if you walk into a nightclub and they're playing like death metal, I don't want to go. I want to go and lie down in a corner and put a bag over my head because it's not very nice. The very nature of this kind of discussion is that it's looking back. I've never been able to tell the future. I don't really know what's going to happen, especially with music, because I'm out of touch. What I do know is what I see. And what I see is the stuff that is forced, on youth, through Radio 1, through the music television. There is no music television anymore on mainstream television, So there's no Top of the Pops. Jules Holland's, got 12 shows a year, Oh, I know. There is the X Factor. There is Britain's Got Talent. So this is the mainstream. There's no alternative. I used to watch Top of the Pops for that one time the Stranglers were on it, or the Damned were on it, or Earth, Wind and Fire were on it. And the rest of it was garbage. And that still stands today, except there is nowhere you can see that Damned or that Earth, Wind and Fire, because the rest of it's not there. You can see some kind of semi-talented idiot that is making a fool of themselves for our delectation to laugh at, and actually I find that quite offensive. You know, some of these people are mentally ill. They shouldn't be up there being made to be humiliated. In fact, I think that programme is awful, and I think it needs to be taken down, and with a bit of luck, people will stop watching it, but they never do. You know, I don't know why. What have we done to deserve that? And yeah, it's an easy thing to attack, isn't it? But it's true, it's shit. I'm very sad about that.
Do you think it's part of a more broader and general malaise anyway?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, our society's fucked. We're going to hell in a handcart, as my grandmother used to say.
Looking back.
Oh.
Because I want to protect you. No, it's good, it's good.
Take my mother-in-law. No, go on, take her. Sorry, I just had the urge to be a northern comedian then.
Give another gin. Is there anything you do differently? You know, is there anything?
Absolutely. I'd moved to Barbados, probably at the age of 16, with my multi-millionaire parents. That's what I should have done. No. Yeah, of course. You know, we all make mistakes, or we wouldn't be, ourselves. What I do differently will probably change today. Like my top 10 records, they change every day. People go, what's your favourite record? Well, I asked you 4 years ago, and it wouldn't be.
What is it today?
Well, I'm going through a bit of a weird period at the moment, where it's anything by Leroy Hudson.
Oh, right.
Now, Leroy Hudson is my favourite producer of all time. I, again, like Terry Callier and Johnny Bristol and Charlie Allen, he was one of the people that I tracked down in the late 80s and tried to get him signed to Acid Jazz. And he wouldn't. And he actually rang me back 3 years ago and said, I never really said to you that it was a big mistake not signing to Acid Jazz. I really appreciate the fact you took the time and trouble and effort. I said, no, I appreciate the fact that you made the records that made me want to be a record producer, you know? And see, this is a little story people don't know. I tried to copy Leroy Hudson's production style with brand new heavies and various other things I did in my studio. And one day I got a knock at the door. One of the best singers in the world knocks at the door, and my engineer's gone, oh, there's some bloke upstairs called Daryl who wants to come in. Yeah, well, I'm busy. Tell him I'm busy. No, he wants to come in and see the drum sound that you've got because he wants to know how to get it. What? All right, bring him down. In walks fucking Daryl Hall from Hall & Oates, who, I don't know if you've not seen at Daryl's place, Google it, because it's the best soul music on the internet. He is the best voice in the world, and he's come into my studio and he's gone, this is where you did that. This is where you got this sound. And the ironic thing was, I was using the same kind of setup that Leroy Hudson used in the 70s to try and get a sound that Daryl Hall then thought was very now. You know, so everything had completely gone around in a complete circle. And it was, in a way, it was a kind of a compliment to Leroy Hudson for giving me the inspiration to be a record producer in the first place. So anything by Leroy, like, why answer a question with lucky fellow when you can answer it with 8 paragraphs of talking about your hero? But one of the finest things I ever did was persuade him to come to England 3 years ago, and I put a band together around him, which were the Third Degree, who are an acid jazz kind of backing band, and he played a couple of gigs, one in Manchester, one in London, and one at Vintage Festival, and it was one of the finest gigs I've ever been to. So it was really good. And so at the moment, he's just been here last week for the second time, and I couldn't go and see him because I was working abroad. And so at the moment, it's anything by Leroy Hudson, and probably will be forever, actually. So there you go.
Have you got it in your box?
Yeah.
Yes. Excellent.
Yeah. I did a set at the Ibiza Soul Week where I played 6 Leroy Hudson records in a 1.5 hour set. So with a bit of luck, I might get a couple inside.
When's your book going to be
He's not
finished?
even famous, is it? It's like...
Yeah, but yeah, it doesn't matter. That's
He is
it.
to
Well,
you,
yeah,
though, yeah.
yeah.
Call out.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That's my current radio intro tune, actually, called out. I love that record.
I'm that loving you.
There we go.
When's your book going to come out?
Probably next year. Probably the end of next year. So many weird and funny things have happened to me. Like, just being in LA and getting a phone call saying, "Oh, what are you doing tonight?" "Oh, nothing." "Why?" Sylvester Stallone wants to know if you'll DJ at his party, his birthday party." "Yeah, hold on. Yeah, I think I can do that." Fucking hell, what? Yeah, that was good. Pele, I DJed for Pele's birthday. Ray Charles' birthday, that was in Dallas, I think. And Stella McCartney, Linda McCartney's birthday party, I DJed for that as well. Paul Weller's 50th. So yeah, I do bar mitzvahs, weddings and parties.
And Outlaws.
Yeah, I've got a big head. Sorry, anyway, sorry about that. You've been very kind to me. Oh, one last question, go on then.
Yeah, I heard you got a box of records in it.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, let's not bring it down. We started off on a down. We want to end. We want to go on a high.
It's been a long time. I don't want to keep him down.
No, it's never. There's not a day where I don't miss some of those records. So. Anyway, we'll leave that then.
Eddie, thank you very much.
Shit, I better see the fucking evidence. Thank you very much.